She was only 16 years old, and that night almost became the last normal night of her life. Her name was Lily Harper. Quiet girl, good grades, never caused problems. Teachers described her the same way every year. Smart, responsible, observant. But most people in town barely noticed her. She was the type of student who sat near the window, the one who listened more than she spoke, the one who walked through the hallway without drawing attention. And Lily liked it that way. She preferred quiet, sketching in her notebook, listening to music while walking home from school, watching people instead of talking to them. And maybe that habit of observing things carefully is exactly what saved her life. Lily lived in a town called Brookfield, a small place surrounded by woods and quiet roads. The kind of town where the biggest news was usually a high school football game or someone opening a new diner. People here believed something very strongly. Nothing bad happens in Brookfield. Parents let their kids walk home after dark. Neighbors left bicycles in their yards. Some people even forgot to lock their doors at night. It had always been like that, for decades, until the autumn when everything changed. It was late October. Cold air moved through the streets like a slow whisper. Leaves covered the sidewalks. Orange, brown, red. The kind that make a soft crunch when you step on them. The sun had already disappeared behind the trees by the time Lily finished art club that evening. Most students had left the school building an hour earlier. The hallways were quiet, only the buzzing sound of fluorescent lights above. Her friend Maya leaned against the classroom door. "You're still walking home tonight?" she asked. Lily nodded while placing her sketchbook into her backpack. "It's not far." Maya frowned. "It's getting darker earlier now." "I know." "You want a ride?" Lily smiled. "I'm fine." Maya shrugged. "Text me when you get home." "I will." It was a simple conversation, one that neither of them would remember later, except for one thing. Those were the last normal words Lily heard that night. When Lily stepped outside the school building, the air felt colder than she expected. She zipped up her jacket. The parking lot was almost empty. A few cars, a dim streetlight near the entrance. The sky was already blue-black, that quiet time of evening when most people are inside their homes. Lily put her headphones in. Music started playing softly. She began the walk home. 15 minutes, that was all. A straight road, 2 turns. Nothing complicated. She had walked this same route hundreds of times. Past the grocery store, past the small park, past the row of houses with white fences. It was routine, predictable, safe. At least it always had been before. About halfway home, she noticed the car. At first, it was nothing, just a black sedan parked along the curb, engine running, headlights dim. Lots of people sat in parked cars like that, texting, waiting for someone, talking on the phone. Lily walked past it without thinking. But a few seconds later, the car started moving, slowly, rolling forward along the street, right behind her. At first, Lily assumed the driver was just leaving, maybe someone who had been parked and now needed to go somewhere. But the car didn't pass her. It stayed behind her, moving at exactly the same speed she was walking. That was strange. Most drivers would either speed up or stop, but this car did neither. It simply followed, quietly, patiently. The sound of tires moving slowly over pavement began to feel louder. Lily kept walking, trying to convince herself it was nothing. Maybe the driver was looking for an address. Maybe they were lost. But then something happened that made her heart beat faster. The window rolled down, and a man's voice came from inside the car. "Hey." Just that one word, but something about the tone made Lily uncomfortable. She didn't stop. She didn't turn around. She simply kept walking. "Hey," the voice called again. "You need a ride?" Her stomach tightened. Her parents had taught her something simple when she was younger. If a stranger tries to stop you while you're alone, don't explain. Don't argue. Leave. So Lily walked faster. The car moved again, still beside her, still slow, matching her pace. Now the passenger door unlocked with a loud click. That sound changed everything, because suddenly Lily understood something terrifying. This man wasn't just asking a question, he was preparing to get out. Fear is strange. Sometimes it explodes instantly. Other times it creeps into your mind slowly, a quiet voice whispering that something is wrong. Lily reached the next intersection. Normally she would turn left. That road led straight home, but instead she kept walking forward, testing something. If the car followed her, then it wasn't coincidence. The car followed. That was the moment Lily knew someone was watching her. Her heart started pounding. She pulled her phone out of her pocket, pretended to send a message, but her hands were shaking. The car rolled closer. Now the man spoke again. "You shouldn't be walking alone tonight." His voice sounded calm, too calm. That's when Lily made a decision. She started running. Not full sprint at first, just faster steps. But the car accelerated instantly. The engine roared louder behind her. The passenger door slammed shut. Now it wasn't subtle. Now it was obvious. Someone was chasing her, and Lily was completely alone. Her lungs burned as she ran, cold air cutting into her chest, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. The sound of the car followed her. Too close, way too close. Her mind raced. Home was still several minutes away. Too far. Too many dark streets between here and there. But then she remembered something. A side street. One where people sometimes sat outside at night. One with porch lights, neighbors, possible help. Lily ran straight towards that house. The car slowed, then stopped completely. For a moment, it simply sat there, watching. Then the engine roared and the car drove away. Lily collapsed onto the sidewalk, breathing hard. The man from the porch stood up quickly. Hey, are you okay?" She nodded, but her hands were shaking. "Did someone chase you?" Lily looked down the empty street where the car had disappeared. Then she whispered a single word. "No." But her voice carried fear so deep it didn't sound like a denial. It sounded like shock. And that was only the beginning of the story. Because 2 days later, the police would find that car. And inside it, they would discover something that terrified the entire town. The man from the porch introduced himself as Daniel. He'd lived in that house for almost 20 years. Quiet neighbor, former mechanic, the type of person who spent evenings sitting outside with a cup of coffee watching the street. If Lily had turned down any other road that night, he might never have seen her, and that thought would haunt people in Brookfield for a long time. Daniel helped Lily sit down on the porch steps. Her breathing was still uneven. Her hands were shaking badly. "Take a breath," he said gently. "You're safe now." She nodded, but her eyes kept scanning the street, like she expected the black sedan to appear again at any moment. "Did you see the driver?" Daniel asked. Lily hesitated. "Just a little." "Was he alone?" I think there were 2 people." Daniel's expression changed slightly. 2 people. That meant this wasn't just some random driver trying to scare a teenager. It meant something worse. Daniel called the police. They arrived faster than Lily expected. 2 patrol cars, red and blue lights flashing across the quiet houses. The entire street woke up. Neighbors turned on porch lights, curtains moved, people watched from their windows. Brookfield wasn't used to scenes like this. The town had always been quiet, safe. But that night, something had cracked in that illusion. Officer Ramirez was the first to approach Lily. He spoke calmly, soft voice, trying not to make the situation feel more frightening than it already was. "Can you tell me what happened?" Lily explained everything. The car, the voice, the door unlocking, the chase. The officers wrote down every detail. Black sedan, 2 men. passenger door unlocked, partial license plate number, and something else Lily mentioned that caught Ramirez's attention. "The car didn't pass me," she said quietly. "It stayed beside me the whole time." Ramirez exchanged a quick glance with his partner because he had heard something similar before. 3 weeks earlier, a teenage girl from another neighborhood had reported a suspicious car. Same description, black sedan, driver asking strange questions, but the car disappeared before police arrived. A week after that, another student mentioned being followed while walking home from a bus stop. Again, black sedan. Again, it vanished before anyone could identify it. At the time, those reports seemed unrelated. Now, suddenly, they looked very different. The police searched the nearby streets for nearly an hour. No sign of the car, no witnesses who had seen it leave the area, just empty roads and a growing sense that something dangerous had slipped away into the darkness. Lily's parents arrived soon after. Her mother rushed across the yard and wrapped her arms around her. "What happened?" Lily tried to explain again, but saying the story out loud made it feel more real, more frightening. Her father stood quietly beside them, looking down the empty street, jaw tight, because in his mind, one thought kept repeating. Someone had been hunting his daughter. The police promised they would investigate. Patrols increased around the area that night. Officers drove slowly through the streets until nearly midnight, but the black sedan never returned. And for a moment, it seemed like the danger had passed. But 2 days later, everything changed. Early Saturday morning, a call came into the Brookfield police station. A tow truck driver had discovered an abandoned car in a parking lot 30 miles outside town. Black sedan, engine cold, license plates partially covered with tape. The description matched Lily's report exactly. Officer Ramirez drove to the location immediately. The car sat alone near the edge of the lot, dirty, silent, almost ordinary looking, but something about it made Ramirez uneasy, because abandoned vehicles usually had a simple explanation: broken engine, flat tire, owner coming back later. This one felt different, like it had been left behind on purpose. When officers opened the doors, the first thing they noticed was the smell. Not alcohol, not drugs, just the stale scent of someone spending a lot of time inside a car. The back seat contained empty coffee cups, fast food wrappers, and several folded maps. Paper maps, not digital navigation, old-fashioned maps, the kind people use when they don't want a digital record of where they've been. Ramirez unfolded one. Several towns were circled in red pen. Brookfield was one of them. Then they found the notebook, small, black cover, hidden under the passenger seat. Inside were pages filled with handwritten notes, street names, school schedules, bus routes, and lists of times. 3:45 p.m., students leave north entrance. 4:10 p.m., group of girls near park. 8:40 p.m., walk route, alone. The handwriting was neat, organized, careful, like someone studying a project. Ramirez turned another page, and that's when he saw something that made his stomach drop. Names. A list of names from teenage girls from Brookfield High School, and right near the top of the page was Lily Harper. Ramirez closed the notebook slowly, because suddenly the story had become much bigger. This wasn't just some random encounter. Someone had been watching those girls, studying their routines, waiting for the right moment. And if Lily hadn't run toward that porch light, no one knew what might have happened. Back in Brookfield, the news spread quickly. Small towns work that way. Within hours, people were talking about the abandoned car. Parents started picking their kids up from school again. Neighborhood watch groups appeared overnight. Streetlights that had been broken for months were suddenly repaired, because something had changed. For the first time in decades, Brookfield realized something terrifying. The town had never been as safe as people believed, and the investigation was only beginning. Because inside that notebook, police had discovered something even more disturbing, something that suggested Lily wasn't the only target, and whoever owned that car might still be out there, watching, waiting. For the next few weeks, Brookfield stopped feeling like the quiet town everyone once believed it was. Police patrol cars moved slowly through the streets every evening. Parents waited outside schools to pick up their children. Streetlights that had been broken for months were suddenly repaired. People who had once waved casually from their porches now watched the road more carefully. Because something had changed. The illusion of safety was gone, and everyone knew why. Officer Ramirez spent most of those weeks studying the notebook found inside the abandoned car. Every page revealed something new. Street names, school schedules, bus routes, notes about teenagers walking alone. The handwriting was precise and organized. This wasn't random behavior. Someone had been planning something carefully, very carefully. And the longer Ramirez looked at those pages, the more one thought kept returning. Whoever wrote this had been watching the town for a long time. But there was another detail inside the notebook that police didn't immediately share with the public. At the bottom of one page, there were initials written next to several names, small letters, almost hidden. Ramirez didn't know what they meant at first, but a detective from another department recognized them instantly. They weren't initials, they were location codes, short references to nearby towns. And when police began comparing reports from those towns, the pattern became clearer. Brookfield wasn't the first place. It was just the next one on the list. That discovery changed everything about the investigation. Now, police weren't just looking for someone who had followed Lily. They were searching for someone who had been moving between towns, watching teenagers, tracking routines, waiting for opportunities. The kind of person who didn't rush, the kind who planned. And that made the situation far more dangerous. Meanwhile, Lily tried to return to normal life. At least that's what everyone expected. Her parents kept her home from school for a week. Her mother barely slept. Her father checked the locks on every door twice each night. But Lily didn't talk much about the incident, not because she wanted to hide it, but because she was still trying to understand what had happened. Sometimes when she closed her eyes, she could still hear the sound of the car tires moving slowly behind her, still hear the click of the passenger door unlocking, still feel that moment when she realized someone was watching her. And yet, there was something else she remembered more clearly, the moment she decided to run. Fear can freeze people. That's what many experts say. When danger appears suddenly, the human brain sometimes stops working the way we expect. People hesitate, they question themselves, they wonder if they're overreacting. But Lily didn't freeze, she ran. And that single decision changed everything. 3 weeks after the car was discovered, police finally received the break they needed. Security footage from a gas station nearly 40 miles away showed the black sedan stopping late one night. 2 men stepped out. The camera quality wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Investigators were able to identify the vehicle's original registration number. From there, they traced it to a rental company. The car had been rented using a fake identity. But the surveillance footage showed something the men couldn't hide: their faces. And once police had those images, it didn't take long to find a match. One of the men had a criminal record in another state, not for violent crimes, but for stalking, harassment, following young women. The second man had no record at all, which made him even harder to track. But police now knew one thing for certain: the men who followed Lily were real, and they were still out there. The search lasted several more weeks. Eventually, the suspects were located in another town nearly 200 miles away. When officers entered the small apartment where they were staying, they found something that confirmed their worst fears: more notebooks, more maps, more lists of names. It was clear now that the 2 men had been traveling from town to town for months, watching, observing, waiting for moments when teenagers were alone. The same pattern repeated again and again, until Lily ran, until someone noticed, until the entire plan began to fall apart. When the arrests were announced, the reaction in Brookfield was immediate: relief, anger, shock. People struggled to understand how something like this could have been happening so close to home. For years, the town believed danger only existed somewhere else, in bigger cities, in places far away. But now everyone understood something important. Danger doesn't always look obvious. Sometimes it hides in quiet streets, ordinary cars, ordinary evenings, waiting for the moment when no one is paid attention. For Lily, the attention that followed the arrests felt overwhelming. News reporters called the house. Neighbors stopped her parents on the street. People spoke about her bravery, about the way she ran, about how that single decision might have prevented something far worse. But Lily didn't think of herself as brave. She remembered how scared she had been, how quickly everything had changed. One minute she was walking home listening to music, the next minute someone was chasing her. That memory stayed with her for a long time. But over time, something else replaced it. Understanding. One afternoon, nearly a year later, Lily sat on a bench outside her new school. Her family had decided to move after everything that happened, not because they hated Brookfield, but because sometimes people need distance from memories. A younger student sat beside her. The girl looked nervous. She kept glancing down the street. "Are you waiting for someone?" Lily asked. The girl nodded. "Yes, my mom says I shouldn't walk alone after dark." Lily smiled gently. "That's probably a good rule." The girl hesitated. "Were you really chased by someone once?" News travels quickly even to new towns. Lily nodded. "Yes." "Were you scared?" For a moment, Lily thought about that night again. The dark street, the sound of the car, the moment she realized something was wrong. Then she said something very simple. "Yes, but fear isn't always a bad thing." The younger girl looked confused. "What do you mean?" Lily looked down the street. "Fear tells you when something isn't right. And sometimes," she added quietly, "it reminds you to run." Years later, when people in Brookfield talked about the night everything changed, they didn't always mention the police investigation, or the arrests, or the notebook filled with names. Instead, they talked about something much simpler. A 16-year-old girl running down a quiet street, a porch light glowing in the distance, and a man sitting outside with a cup of coffee. And the moment when a small decision made all the difference. Because Lily was only 16 years old, but that night, she trusted the feeling that something was wrong. She didn't hesitate. She didn't freeze. She ran. And that single choice saved her life. If you enjoyed this story, remember one thing. Sometimes the most important decisions in life happen in just a few seconds. A moment when an instinct tells you something is wrong. And in that moment, listening to that instinct can change everything.